Hi, my name is Crystal. This Saturday night, the UFC returns, and BetStamps has joined up with the Todd Atkins Show to provide a one-stop shop website for all of your gambling needs. When you visit Todd's page, signupexpert.com/TAS, you'll be connected to all of the sports books in your region, along with a review of each platform and its unique benefits. All of these sports books have valuable offers for new users. So when you register through MyLink, you'll automatically receive the top offers at each one. So if you want to take advantage of these benefits and support the Todd Atkins Show, please consider signing up for your next sports book at expertsignup.com/TAS. Again, my name is Crystal, and you can find me on TikTok at unapologeticallyme0424. Happy gambling!
Hi, it's Claudia Correa, and I just want to sit down and thank you all for watching the MMA Conspiracy Hour with Todd Atkins and Miguel Iterate. Miguel has been the matchmaker of over 200 shows across the world. Miguel has worked with Hook and Shot, Euphoria, Bodog Fight, and ADCC. You can also find Miguel on his YouTube channel at MMA Collector 74. And don't forget to follow me at It's Claudia Correa.
All right, so it's Todd Atkins, and back with Miguel Iterate, MMA Conspiracy Hour team. And, before we start, as always, we want to thank our sponsors, Live to Fight Design and BetStamp. And today we're going to discuss Kevin Iole. He's kind of a hot topic today, I found on Twitter, as he kind of wrote a puff piece on Powerslap. It'll kind of look like Dana White had wrote it, basically. Like he just gave him what to write, and he wrote it. And, so myself and Miguel were kind of talking offline about this, and we kind of wanted, to discuss this a little bit. Kevin Iole's
Todd is lying right there. Todd is lying. I would like nothing more than to not talk about this.
Right.
But
it was my idea. Yeah.
But we're forced to. The thing is I would like nothing more than to not talk about this because it shouldn't be happening. We're forced to because we're being fed this crap. Again, I think the article makes some claims, I'm paraphrasing here, but that they've got 6 of the top 10 all-time YouTube videos or all-time clips or whatever it is. There's got to be some way to review that or check that, but just off the top of my head, like I was going over, like pop stars like Shakira, Ed Sheeran, Lady Gaga,
Bruno Mars, yeah.
Yeah, Bruno Mars. You can go into like people who have songs that like I like, rock and roll, heavy metal. I'm an old guy. But even I know Bruno Mars songs.
Right.
I know Ed Sheeran songs. I know Shakira songs because these people have crossed over to become mega big stars that have people following. Rihanna. Beyonce, you mean to tell me some of these people have lost the top 10 spot because of Powerslap? So the article is less than facts. If there's some truth behind it, or you can't call them out and out lies, it's because of some semantics of some type. Because there's no way that they have 6 of the top 10 YouTube videos in any category in any way. So that's what's annoying about it. And again, it comes back to this. It's like when Powerslap came out, they were taken off of television and they were put on Rumble, I think. Am I wrong? Is it Rumble?
Yeah. Okay.
And then at that point, Dana doubled down and said, wait till you see season 2. We're going to bring in all these Russians. We're going to do this big thing. Where is that? He's failed to deliver on that. Why did the article not mention this hasn't really picked up the way it was supposed to? Because we were promised stuff that we weren't given. If you're a Powerslap fan, you were probably sitting there anticipating, let's see this major influx of talent from overseas that we were promised. Or are people just, mind-numbingly looking at people slapping each other on there? Is there a single Powerslap name that anybody can give me out there of one guy who does Powerslap that you want to see? I can't wait to see him slap someone again. No, so it's a gimmick. It's something that you could literally, it's immoral and completely wrong, but so is it what we're being shoved down our throat, to be honest with you. But I'll beat their videos tomorrow if you let me do Powerslap in my kid's grade school. because we'll put kids slapping each other, the crap out of each other on video, and boom, people will watch it because people are that dumb sometimes, or because people like to watch a car wreck. But you can only watch so many car wrecks. That's why Power Slap still has no legs as a. It's not a sport. Has no legs as a with a viewing audience. Where again, where's the anticipation? Where is somebody in like that? You who's a Power Slapper you want to see? The only guy that comes to mind, and someone you told me about, is a guy whose nickname is something like Power Slap Jesus or something like that. And I couldn't identify him, and he walked into the room here. I just know his name because you told it to me. Because, I remember the name Jesus. There's no, and Kevin Iole, he lives in Las Vegas. He writes for the Las Vegas Review, and he was an entity there. So in other words, when UFC is there in Las Vegas and you have reporters in their isolated spots all over the country, he was there right at ground zero and he got in. And ever since then, now he's being portrayed as some kind of expert. Again, just similar to another Las Vegas entity, Adelaide Bird. I doubt that Kevin Iole has gone back to the beginning of the sport and said, okay, who could get me some fights from Shudo in the early 90s? All the stuff that from Pancrase, everything that happened before the UFC, and then sat down and watched UFC 1, 2, 3, all the way through. Because if you haven't, then your expert title comes into question, except for that the CEO of the company is false enough to actually say he's an expert. This is the guy. He brings them in. They sit around. They pal around. Who knows what other common interests they have? So all of a sudden, he's the expert that we're being sold. But I present to you that his knowledge is not historic knowledge of the sport. He's more or less a shill that is a conduit to get the company's message out. And that's what the companies always look for in their promotions, in their press people. They'll get the company's message out. Put Dana up front. Dana made a decision early on. Somebody could track this down, but I remember, very firmly at some point it happened. When they bought the UFC, the top employee that came over from the old company was Joe Silva, the matchmaker. Everybody else left. There was no Art Davey. There was no John Peretti. Those were the matchmakers prior to Joe. Joe was already in that spot. None of the executives like Bob Meyerowitz or anybody like that, nobody came over. Joe was the top person, the top fountain of knowledge that they had there. Very quickly after the UFC under Zuffa started to pick up steam, Joe was yanked from the press and never did another interview again. Was never a public face again. It was always Dana. That's a very contrived, very powerful way to get a message out. And then, therefore, what happens is Dana is only going to cater to the people who will put his message out. Very few people, has Kevin Iole ever questioned a Dana decision? Like, if you're an expert on a sport and Dana was so in love with a young 20-year-old named Sage Northcutt, wouldn't it be normal for somebody to at least say, let's get this guy 15 fights first, or 10, let's get this guy some real attention and not just watch him do backflips. The guy's beautiful. He's a beautiful looking athlete. He checks off a lot of boxes, but he has no credibility in the octagon yet because he hasn't even really have a real resume. Let's just wait. Did Kevin Iole do anything like that? No. I'm not sure he touted Sage Northcutt, but nobody ever questions Dana. So these press people that are out there, and Iole's because he's at Yahoo and because he was there in Vegas beforehand, he's now the UFC reporter guy. So, if you're in a press place, at an award ceremony for press sports and non-sports and stuff, and everybody there, those people all say, oh, there's the UFC guy, And he is the UFC guy, but he's a company man. He's not a UFC historian or even an expert. And again, this article to me, like I said, Shakira I think she's lives in Colombia. She's probably got a couple of houses, right? You know, but she's sitting in her estate in Colombia. You think somebody called, she received a phone call from her agent that said, hey, you're not in the top 10 videos anymore because of sweaty guys power slapping. They've even had. See, this is where now if you get into the power slap thing, there's some superficial things I can bring up that I don't know enough about it. Like, for example, Tim Sylvia did power slap. Do you do power slap or do you do it with another company?
Another company, I think. Yeah.
Okay. So, but here's the thing is there's been some athletes and crossover names that have shown interest. Actually, Tim challenged Mark Coleman. Coleman was down to do it at some point. May Mark get better? We know he's had a tragedy this week. I'm not bringing him up bad. I don't think it's a good idea for Mark to be doing power slapping, but not even the presence of normal, these are champion guys from the UFC days. You would think that they might get some promotion or something out of that. But no, because everybody in power slap is just cannon fodder. The fact that he tells you, you're going to sign a contract, you're going to be an athlete of power slap or whatever, this is bullshit. Because what's not interesting, what's the train wreck there that people watch is the act of hitting each other. That's why I said if they let me duplicate it with kids, I'll beat their stupid records of clicks and stuff because people won't believe how shockingly stupid what we're presenting is, and they'll watch it. So what Dana has a insulting way of looking at the masses that he can put garbage out and sell anything and that will make that. And this article is a reinforcement. So we're supposed to read this article and think Dana was right. Power slap is all that and more. We just didn't realize it. And where else? I guess if they're doing a series on TV or what, not TV, but Rumble. But here's the other part of it is you can't even watch Power Slap anywhere else but YouTube, where people upload free videos. And Dana's got a staff of people that he can say, hey, your job today is do this. Nobody's going to say, man, I'd rather just do UFC clips. This stuff sucks. They have a job. They're being paid. So again, Kevin Iole, I question his credibility as a UFC expert or reporter or anything before that. He just took his whatever credibility he did have it built up over the years and threw it out the window with this article. And he doesn't care. My words won't have many impact. Many people, hopefully some people out there will agree with me. He won't care what I say. But that doesn't mean I'm not right. It's almost the same thing as when I'll tell you, I say it this way. It's like the greatest MMA fighter that we've ever seen is Fedor Emelianenko. Demetrius Johnson is an interesting also choice because of his technique and stuff. But again, once again, when you talk about the greatest boxers of all time or anything like that, very rarely do they bring up 125 pounders. And Demetrius, unfortunately, has that against him. So to me, there's no doubt it's Fedor. And Dana craps all over Fedor. So you know what that means? Very simple. Dana's wrong. It's as simple as that. But nobody comes out to say that to him. Dana didn't sign him. Dana's bitter about it. So Dana credits nothing that the guy did. Yet he points to a drug-addicted John Jones who's never fought anybody outside of his weight class, yet he's maybe got 2 fights in the heavyweight division still. John Jones in his prime versus Fedor in his prime, we'll never see it. It was not fated to happen. And it could probably be a fight that John Jones could win. But it would certainly be a fight that John Jones could lose. Whereas he's had very few of those fights under the UFC category. Clearly, Fedor's competition level in pride and in the other places where he fought, even after he started to take some losses, where he never backed off from a fight. He came back probably to fight too late and things like that. That happens. But look at his 10-year run as a prime. He fought guys double his size. The X factors in a fight like that are so innumerable that just fighting only in your weight class may make some of those fights move the guy up the scale. There's no doubt that Fedor is the greatest fighter of all time. But Dana will tell you no. And people will say, Dana says it's John Jones and that's it. And again, I tell you, I would simply say, if you say Fedor's not the best, you're wrong. It's simple. And that's what somebody needs to tell Dana about this power slap stuff. You're wrong. You've been wrong since the beginning. Admit it, cut your losses, and just say, yeah, I'd be more impressed by you if you came out and said, I was wrong about that. But now you've got this article coming out. What does that mean? That all of a sudden in the next couple of weeks, we're going to see another series of this on Rumble? All those people watching on Rumble? Again, there's nowhere else to watch it. They know how to manipulate the algorithm. So a lot of people pop up and there's a power slap video. It doesn't surprise me that they get a lot of views because you can't see it anywhere else and because it has a certain amount of shock value. Just like if you put on there, like, for example, there's a hot series of videos on YouTube now. If you watch a little bit of voiceovers of dogs with a voiceover where the dog is like, running around and stuff, and a guy with a very humorous, very funny voice and a very nice take is saying like, oh, we're going to go outside. I want to go outside. Take me outside. Nonsense. But he's getting a lot of views. More power to him. He's got a nice little gimmick. But I don't think he'll be doing this in 5 years. It's not like people are sitting there waiting. I can't wait to see the next one. They may watch a few of them. And, maybe I have a wrong read on this. But again, power slap, you live in the States. I live overseas. But just in the States, anywhere, in any way, shape, or form, have you seen anyone wearing a power slap t-shirt?
Nope.
Have you seen or had a conversation with anybody or, gone to a restaurant or a bar and overheard people talking about power slap? Because I know I could walk into San Jose and see people wearing UFC hats and UFC shirts and stuff. And this article actually makes a claim that power slap is beating some of the UFC's numbers. So, yeah, I think you're right. I think somebody wrote it, Dana approved it, handed it to Kevin and goes, Kevin, publish this. And Kevin just blindly said, okay, with no integrity as a reporter or anything like that. Because just the fact that he's a sports reporter and is talking about power slap should tell you everything you need to know.
Now, what did you think about this valuation where they're saying it already is worth $650 million?
If Dana put $500 million of his own money into an account that says power slap, then yeah, they're worth a lot of money. But I challenge you this way. Put the company on the market for $500 million. Even put it cheap. Let the buyer save $150 million and sell it for $500 million. Sell it and prove to me it's worth that. Because if you can't sell it, it's worth absolutely zero. And I present to you, they wouldn't find a single buyer anywhere unless, somebody's completely delusional or completely mesmerized by Dana White in some way, shape, or form. Like I'm talking about Indian flutes and snakes, and the person's completely out of hand because nobody would buy that. Just like nobody put it on TV. When they put it on TV, they took it off TV very quickly. And they didn't take it off TV because one executive saw it and thought it was distasteful. They took it off TV because people weren't watching it. Their ratings sucked. He put it on Rumble. It's not like Rumble is like all of a sudden hundreds of thousands of people are moving to Rumble just to see Powerslap. No, Rumble's still around the same level of video site or whatever it is that they were before. And again, the failure of them to produce season 2 with all this international talent and stuff like that should be enough to let most people know that we're being fed more BS, or that maybe they're hoping to break even, or maybe they've invested some money, or maybe they're making some money and they want to try to make more. But I don't think that this is a genuine act. And the numbers of, like I said, the YouTube numbers that they're giving on in that article look a lot less than genuine as well. So, like, yeah, it looks like Dana dictated, somebody sat there and typed, and then Dana printed it, on an old printer. And or they used a typewriter, and then Dana went to a photocopy machine and handed it to Kevin Iole. I don't know how he got the information out there, but it looks like Kevin's just doing the company line like he always has.
And I kind of compare it to like YouTube, right? When you look at who are the popular MMA YouTube character, they're all guys who act like clowns. The goofier and more ridiculous you are, the more views you will get. And that's how the internet is. It doesn't apply to anything in the regular world. But you can, like you had said, you could do almost anything crazy and get a lot of views on the internet because of what you're doing. Like you had said, if you had lit a fart on fire, you could get millions of views. You could on the internet. Absolutely, you could. And it's happened before. So I compare Powerslap to like, some of these YouTube characters that have a lot of followers. They don't really know much about the sport. They've probably never been to a regional event in their life, but because they're kind of willing to make fools of themselves.
Yeah, like I said, in the claim here, I just looked it up, and look, we have 4 figures in views, in subscribers. So somebody could take that fact and say they don't know anything. Yeah, we don't know how to manipulate the algorithm, and we're not investing money to get viewers or get subscribers or anything like that. I present to you that they will be investing, and they will have put money into their channel and stuff. Despite all that, I just looked it up. Powerslap has 2.1 million subscribers. It sounds like a huge number, but I just looked up Shakira. Shakira has 45 million. Let's check on old Rihanna, because I think Rihanna is actually one of the biggest of the big. Rihanna's got 42. So Rihanna and Shakira are like in the 40 millions. It's 20 times what Powerslap has. Now, granted, they've been around longer. Dana's never going to catch them on views or subscribers or anything like that. Or the money, he's got 2.1 million people. He puts up some clips of fat guys slapping each other. People get a kick out of it. They subscribe. They watch about 10 videos. And then what is compelling there to bring them back? Who's the big star there that's drawing all the attention? Because the UFC sites and the UFC stuff, like right now, I would say maybe the hottest YouTube guy that they have on the UFC roster is probably I always mix up his name. Strickland, actually. Sean Strickland. I always mix him up with Sean O'Malley in my head, so you can see how big the stars they are. But Sean Strickland, because he's controversial and he can't keep his mouth shut. Well, let's see if Sean Strickland has more views, or at least more subscribers, than the old Powerslap channel. Let's see. No, I just subscribed to it. I want to unsubscribe. I'm not. I don't really care to contribute to that. Oh, he's only got 175,000 subscribers. So Dana could say, "Oh yeah, as hot as Strickland is, Powerslap outdoes him." But again, Powerslap is just like is just a gimmick. Right? Have you ever seen a Powerslap shirt? Heard a conversation? Talked to somebody? Seen it being shown anywhere except for on YouTube? And when YouTube shows it to you, it's not that. I bet you it's not very searched. I bet you it's that they're paying for the algorithm to pop it on everybody's screen. And yeah, you want to see guys slap each other? It's like a train wreck. So people are gonna click on it every once in a while, but they haven't delivered on any of their promises. And Dana's just trying to manipulate things because at the end of the day, a personality like Dana, the one thing that you can say to sum those people up is that he will never admit to being wrong. And this is a good example of that, to the point where he's investing more and he's coming out and he's not letting it die the way it should die, because it is a black eye to him and he doesn't like that. So he's not going to, where you could cut your losses and say, yeah, man, that was a mistake. I don't know what, but we got UFC 300. And again, they could bomb with the UFC stuff. UFC 300, we got 301, we got Fight Night here. We're going to do this. We're going back to Brazil next year. They're already planning a London show. Powerslap could be completely forgotten in an instant if Dana were to put it, but yet Dana still wants to put some attention on this. Why? Because he can't, intrinsically, it's not his personality to admit that he's wrong. And he's just wrong.
Now, you had a point about Bodog when we were talking about like valuation and stuff. You were talking about this offline.
What was that?
You were talking about Calvin Ayre and Bodog and.
No, we always heard his employees, and I was just, a mid-tier management. There were a lot of people above me, and I think I said 2 words to Calvin in my entire life. But there were lore around the company. And again, they have their success on the casino end that's similar to the UFC's success. So don't rate the fact that Bodog Fight didn't get off the ground that great and didn't last was the thing that to shit on Bodog, because it's a major, major corporation, a major entity still today. But the lore around it was that Calvin was making $2 million a day. That's probably not true. And and then there's disorganization and things like that was under them that makes you wonder why. How do they even make money? The fact is right now you have to go to see their websites are under Bodog Life and things like that. Why? Because they spaced out, and the actual Bodog.com sites were purchased by somebody else because they didn't repay to renew the name. So they screwed up, but the company recovered and stuff. When he made the billionaires list, that was a big thing where, Forbes, I believe, has a billionaires list. And he appears on this. So yeah, he's making $2 million a day. He's got $1 billion. And again, even nowadays, even since those days, which was 2 decades ago, little less, $1 billion is actually a lot less money than it was back then. There are a lot more billionaires now, and a lot of multi-billionaires, and a lot of people heading towards $100 billion and stuff like that. That was not in existence when Calvin made the billionaire list. But again, those Forbes spots are a lot like the old ring boxing rankings, where it's who you know and who you can pay off. So it was part of a marketing campaign for him to do that. So these evaluations, they can be done in any simple way. I'm not sure what you were referring to, but the other example of it is, for example, me. I was an employee. I received a paycheck. When they let me go, let's say I had a grievance and wanted to take some type of action against Bodog. Hire a lawyer and say, hey, here's my grievance. Turns out I was paid by a subsidiary company off to the side from Montreal, and that company was bankrupt shortly after the fight stuff went down, it was gone, and you couldn't find anybody to sue or look for recompense or anything like that that might be owed to you. So these companies, these guys, and Dana's already got a guy who's at the $500 million mark by all accounts, and probably more. Those guys have ways of managing money and evaluating and disevaluating and this that most common people don't understand. You just read, and you're told, and people say, oh yeah, Dana's got money. Dana's got this. No one knows what really goes on there. But what I do know is that Powerslap continues to be a black eye on this guy, and he doesn't admit it. Most people would have let it die, but we've already seen for 20 years that his ego isn't the type that's going to let it die. He's going to jam it down people's throats. Even if, he has to make Kevin Iole sacrifice what little integrity he has as a reporter. Like I said, that article that you are forcing me to talk to should never have even been written. It's a waste of everybody's time who's read it. It's a waste of everybody's paper who's read it, of the paper it's written on, or the internet bytes that it's taking up. And every time that happens and somebody reads it and somebody comments on it on Twitter and something like that, is a victory for Dana, because it's prolonging the death of something that already should have died.
That's a good point. It's just at one time Miro Hawani was the guy that Dana was always kind of dealing with, and then when he had a falling out with him, he vanished from the UFC completely, and now it's
Right.
Iole, so if you're willing to, like you said, just say whatever he wants.
Yeah, you can't look, I've seen that type of personality. I've worked for people like that, where you can't tell them they're wrong. And most real people, and you're talking about, once you're talking about billionaires and things like that, you're talking about these guys are actually low-level, mid-tier guys. The real guys out there probably have a core of people that actually can advise them. And that's why they get to that next stratospheric level. Dana, especially with Powerslap as a failure to me, Dana seems to have topped off getting to what he can do on his own. And he still won't take advice, won't listen to, the messages, feels like his gut and his way of seeing things is the only thing he can follow. These are all common traits of people like that. And that's what I think is going on here. This is just Dana's ego manifesting itself. He took a loss, never admitted it, never faced it down. And now that the hullabaloo and now that people aren't talking about it anymore, he comes back to try to shove it down your throat, and so he can always say, "See, I told you so." That's what it is. I told you so. Look at the numbers in Kevin Iole's article. Look how great Powerslap is doing. And again, they got 2.1 million subscribers. That means that means probably Dana is getting a YouTube check, or at least Endeavor and the entity there is getting a YouTube check for probably a little bit of money every month, 6 figures or so of money every month. But again, if they're going to tell me 6 of the top 10 videos in YouTube history belong to Powerslap, I would challenge that. I would want to see the video, the page, the number of hits, where all that comes from, because there are stars that have been there for years that are making real money off of YouTube that, they're just not knocking out. They're not even on the level of, to the point. I don't think Shakira and Rihanna, Bruno Mars, these types of stars are sitting there being like, "Oh shit, Powerslap's coming. We better do something. We better write another song, or else we're gonna get knocked off." It's a completely different level that they're trying to assume that the people are going to believe that they're at. The real YouTube, like again, even a guy like Mr. Beast,
Yep.
right? I think he's a creator on YouTube, right? So like Rihanna writes her songs for radio, and then they get on YouTube, and then all of a sudden she's also got another income stream. But Mr. Beast is just a YouTube entity. I would bet you that Mr. Beast isn't worried about Powerslap overtaking his spot, where he's going to look up and be like, Mr. Beast is now number 2 behind Powerslap. Here's the interesting part. Did you even know Mr. Beast's real name? I have no idea what his real name is. You know, he's Mr. Beast. And,
I've heard of him. I've never watched a video of his, actually.
You know, a lot of it is, you know, a lot of it was, you know, childish stuff at the beginning, but, you know, he's grown to have some type of, he's a smart guy. And he's grown to extend his business and stuff like that. I've seen he's also done a lot of philanthropy, like, you know, get 1,000 blind people operations for their eyes and stuff like that. Which makes him, you know, likable even compared to Dana, who really likability isn't in Dana's, like, he doesn't care if you don't like him. You know, he thinks not being liked actually is just as valuable for views and stuff like that. And like I said, I in the world of Powerslap, there isn't a single person that participates in that I've seen, limited, but I've seen that, you know, I don't remember ever seeing a guy, like, there have been MMA fighters that I've been around during my career where you saw him and you were like, man, that guy's got something. Eddie Alvarez, a good example. I remember, you know, they all got to a certain level. You know, he didn't turn into a super world champion, but a guy who had that kind of instant charisma where I was like, whoa, that's that guy. Wow, let me work with him. It's a guy named Dennis Kang. He's an impressive looking athlete. He still is. He's almost 50 now.
Great guy.
You know, so where is the Powerslap guy that walks into a room and gets your attention? Only because they don't walk, they waddle. You know, there's nobody, there's nothing there. There's no charisma. There's no, you look at the guys, it all looks very Jerry Springerish. If anybody remembers my Jerry Springer reference, where Jerry put on a TV show where they literally would take phone calls from mid-America, find shocking stories like, I'm going to marry a dwarf, or, you know, or whatever. People would make up stories. I believe there were a couple of MMA fighters that actually appeared on the show with a story they made up. They left it on an answering machine. And what do you get from Jerry Springer? You got a trip to Chicago and your expenses paid, your food, your hotel, and stuff like that. Not like, oh, I blew 50,000 here, give me the money. No, you had your minimum stuff taken care of. But for your average person who can't afford a trip to Chicago from, you know, mid-America, wherever they live, it's a big weekend for them. Just like most of those people look like Powerslap is like, that's their weekend. That's a big thing for them, because other than that, their lives look pretty average. There's nothing there with a lot of charisma or big time, you know, future written all over it kind of thing. A Powerslap champion will be winning Powerslap championships for 15 years. Do you see how incoherent that even sounds? You know, have you seen anybody who's, again, we're not talking about a sport, so it's not like, you know, yeah, the guys should have some longevity as long as somebody doesn't knock their head off or give them CT, you know, brain damage instantaneously, then they should be there Powerslap each other. Has anybody differentiated themselves other than, you know, a 400-pound Russian guy that we're promised that we've never seen? So yeah, the Iole's article begets to me that he's a company man, and it's not true journalism. And I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, you know, Jerry Springer, I think the reason it kind of remember Geraldo had some skinheads on his show, and he got into kind of a fight with them. And one of the guys picked up a chair and threw it at him and hit him in the face, and I think it broke his nose. And that got a lot of publicity. And I think Jerry Springer kind of ran with that later. Okay, if we do crazy stuff like this, because Geraldo was kind of a serious show at first, and then he kind of going
there
off the
were a few
rails.
shows. Maury Povich had a show at some
Yeah.
point, similar ilk. So once a little bit of success, and that's why it doesn't surprise me that with the limited success of Powerslap, that there are other imitators. And actually, if you look at it, Dana White throws money at his in terms of, publicity. And, when they make the videos of the events, it's got a nice backdrop, and he forces UFC fighters to attend and catch the guys when they fall and do that sort of stuff. He's the imitator of something that used to go on in bars and in backyards and in garages, because it was a small time thing. So he saw it. He was impressed by it. And of course, anything that impresses Dana has got to be worth $1 billion, right? No, Dana, here's your white trash showing again. You're interested in something that isn't going to catch on, is worthless. But that's that. He's going to throw some money at it. So now it's upgraded. It's like putting a silk hat on a pig, to quote the old movie Goodfellas. The lights, the everything, being in Vegas for Powerslap. Sure, that's going to appeal to a power slapper that was doing it in, Louisville. But it doesn't mean it's a sport. It doesn't mean, I would ask Kevin this. It's like, Kevin, so should I be able to look up your article, and for the last year, can I find Powerslap results that you've been following and putting this out? Or did you just write this article because you were ordered to do so? Where's the newspaper? Where's the entities that give me results of who won versus who's moving up the rankings? Are there rankings? Is there anything like this? Or the rankings just the TV image that they put up, or not even a TV, because they're not on TV, a YouTube graphic.
Rumble graphic.
Yeah, a Rumble graphic, a graphic that Dana asked them to make. Or is there somebody actually following this stuff? And again, where can I go back and see all the results? Because I know I can go to SureDog and get results of MMA since the beginning of, they even have Shudo and stuff like that. So since the late 80s. That's the sport.
Right.
Is there a Powerslap database? I'll tell you what, I'll sell my soul. I actually program databases. Dana, pay me. Send me the emails with the results, and I'll do a database for him that looks good. But you got to pay me. He can have his employees that do databases do it. He can force them to do it. And maybe he'll take my idea. If we see a database now, I'm going to shoot myself for having come up with that. But the fact that it doesn't exist, again, is another one of those between the line things that normal observers should say, yeah, we're getting fed something here that's not what we're being told, because there's no substance or depth to it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it was great to hear you kind of talk about this. And, as always, I like to let you kind of end on the dog rescue and stuff.
Man, I read a stat today, and I don't know. I don't even know if I want to look into the fact to see if it's real or not. But the fact that it could be thrown out there scares me. And that's it. More than 3 million dogs are euthanized in the United States every year. And we criticize China for eating the dogs. And there's a cruelty to that that's really, distasteful and unacceptable and stuff. But again, in the cycle of life, at least being consumed by another something sort of puts you back in the cycle of life. It's almost a little less tragic than winding up in a dumpster or in a paper bag, or in a plastic bag, rather. So, we can look down at other cultures or anything like that, but we shouldn't do that unless we examine ourselves. And, if you're the type of person that would ever think of abandoning a dog, it's like, I got to move. It's like, yeah, then find a place that'll take you with your dog. It's as simple as that. You know, it's like, oh, I'm going to lose my house. It's like, then live with your dog. Don't take your dog to the shelter. You can take your dog to a shelter and ask for it to be euthanized. So it's, you know, I get to observe in the States. Costa Rica is much smaller. The shelters here struggle also. But I watched today one of the local shelters, not the one I'm with at Ashley's, but one of the other ones, actually had an event last week where they got eight dogs adopted. And the spots at the shelter for those 8 dogs, 39 different dogs came in from various aspects. To like, oh, you have space now. Boom. So immediately 5 times the amount of dogs that went out were coming back in. And that's what's going on all over the world, overbreeding, over stuff like that. So, you know, if anybody would pause to think about the animals and the suffering that they're causing that way, it's a spot for reflection. I reflect on it. It bothers me. I try to do something about it as limited as I can, but I try to do something about it because, you know, unbelievably, you know, I'll say it, and it may sound like a joke, but it's actually, that's a worse black eye on humanity than Powerslap.
Yeah. Well, as always, people, if you want to contribute to the dog rescue, the cause at Miguel's, we always put the link in the show notes. We have a GoFundMe there that you can contribute to.
And Todd makes me up my ante a little bit. We were talking the other day, and he asked me if I had a PayPal, and I had a PayPal, but it wasn't associated. I couldn't get the money out of it because the bank accounts here and stuff. I actually went through all the processes and got approval and have a new account where my PayPal will be active. So I'll send it over to Todd. Having a PayPal may make it more accessible for people to contribute to that. Like I said, I'll go ahead and transparently present all the receipts and everything that we're doing for the animal shelter for any money that comes in. I'm not expecting any. I'm not the most prolific person that people watch videos on stuff, and at the end we mention it, and I'm not sure people get to the end of them a lot and stuff. So the number of people that actually hear it and might care, I don't expect anything. But if anything comes in, I assure you that a dog will be rescued or a dog will be taken to a veterinarian who needs it, and or something serious will be done with that. That's all I can say. I dedicate every single day a little bit of time to doing something there, whether it's just at the shelter, making the dogs happy, cleaning up their areas, just putting in some physical. I've got a college education. I've made a lot, I've made money in the past. I don't have a ton of money now, but I've done okay. I could easily say that shit's beneath me. I ain't doing it. But it's not beneath anybody, Dana should take his Powerslap money and open up a dog rescue. It would be so much more impressive for him to do that. But again, not going to happen.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a great to end on as always, and appreciate your insight every time we do one of these, and for people that are watching this, we appreciate.
I think you just like getting me riled up, and I think you think I'm a kooky weirdo, and you just enjoy it.
I think of all on YouTube, I think you're one of the the great minds of MMA that's out there, and as we grow, more people are going to get to see it, and all the people that watch these videos we're real thankful for, and you can comment on these videos, and myself and Miguel will reply, and subscribe to the channel. And
yeah, and I've gotten the MMA museum look. People who've watched our videos over the last couple of years and stuff probably noticed at some point last year that, hey, what happened? Miguel lost a tooth, and I started to have a lot of dental problems, and that made, I'm just being honest here, that made me sunset the MMA Museum website a little bit. I actually, fortunately, was able to get the dental work, so the MMA Museum's back up and running. Doing weekly interviews. Todd and I just contributed. We did a video on look, we're watching classic fights and reviewing them, similar to like, people that watch old music or things like that, or old TV shows or old movies. We're doing it with fights where we actually watch the fights. You can watch them along with us, and we comment and just have fun looking at the old classic history of the sport, the way it really was. Um, fights, not UFC fights.
Right.
So these are more likely to be fights that are forgotten and that the common people won't know about. So hopefully it catches on. I don't think it's something that's going to get millions and millions of views, but for the people out there that really care about the sport and MMA, it will become a fountain there, and that's what the MMA museum's about. So, any support and love in the form of views, comments, subscriptions, likes, and things like that you can do on Todd Atkins's show and on the MMA Collector 74, which is where the MMA museum is. Much appreciated, folks, as well. Thank you.
Yeah. And everybody, as Miguel said, we appreciate you supporting our causes and our channels. And until next time, as always, take care and look out for the next episode.
Live to Fight Design is a fighter and gym banner company in Iowa that is owned by Sean Clemens. If you are a fighter or a gym owner that is interested in ordering a banner, you can reach Sean Clemens on Instagram at Live to Fight Design. If you use Todd's promo code Todd Atkins, you will get $20 off of your order.